G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So in this video today, we're going to be going over my personal top 3 players in every position from this 2022 AFL season. If you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, that'd be much appreciated, and let's get into it. Okay everyone, so here we are. As you can see by the graphic, we have divided this into, of course, many different positions. It isn't just backs, mids and forwards. We've split them up into actual specific positions. So we've got key defender, straightforward, lockdown defender, so like your third tall that can play tall and small, your general defender, so pretty much your halfback flanker, takes the kick outs, good ball user, midfielder, ruckman, wings, midfielder forward that spends pretty much an even split in between the mid and the forward line. Felt like I wanted to include that one in there. General forward, he spends most of their time in the forward line but isn't a key forward, small forward, and finally a key forward. So without further ado, let's get straight into it with the key defenders. We'll go over in order, but yeah, third place in my top 3 key defenders for 2022, I've got 𝐓𝐡𝐿𝐴 from Hawthorn. Sensational year he had, still just baffled how he didn't make the All-Australian. Not only that, he's a very good, just a versatile player too, can play tall, can play small, but yeah, he's been playing key defender this year, did an awesome job. Second best key back, I've gone with Sam Taylor from GWS. Just this guy is a physical beast. I reckon he could be a future captain for the Giants. Plays tough, loves the competitiveness, and is awesome one-on-one. And for me, the undoubted best key defender for this year has to be Steven May from the Melbourne Demons. Yeah, awesome year he just put together. Just an absolute beast in pretty much all aspects. One-on-one, very good contested defense loss rate he had this year. Sensational year he did have. Now moving on to lockdown defenders. And for my top 3 in third place, I've got Jeremy Howe. Now, I had a really good scout of particular plays, and I felt like Howe really fitted well into this lockdown defender role. I still feel this guy's criminally underrated. He's very versatile, he's highly athletic, can really play the tall and small role extremely well, and he was a key part in Collingwood's defence this year, and that's safe to say. Now moving on to second place, another Collingwood member who did make the All-Australian side very deservingly, and still an underrated player. You know who it is, Brayden Maynard. Yeah, you've just got to really respect this guy. He's just an entertaining player to watch, really hard at it, and just a solid year he had. Just absolutely cracking, just play tough, brilliant year. And then, yeah, of course, lockdown defender, the best one this year has to be Tom Stewart. You could maybe put him in under the general defender role, but he does have the capabilities of playing like that small forward or that third tall in the forward line. So I've kind of slotted him there because he's just such a good intercept marker, this guy. Even him being out for 6 weeks, he was still just sensational this year, that's safe to say. Now moving on into the general defenders, my top 3. Third place, I've got Adam Saad from Carlton. The second half of the year, this guy really did blossom. He became a lot more of an accountable player, I felt like, in the second half of the year, and he was just a much more of a penetrating user this year by foot, and just his speed and his athleticism really showed for Carlton this year. Got another Carlton player in second place, Sam Doherty. I could go Dawson, could go Nick Dacos, but I just love Doherty's year, me personally. I thought I don't think he made the 40 man. I really thought he was sort of robbed in a way, but just really consistent all year. Of course, you can say he doesn't defend from here to there, but he's just a really good user of the footy. Completely racks it up. And of course, the best general defender this year is no doubt Jack Sinclair. Just a very entertaining player to watch. Was just brilliant this year. Reads the play exceptionally well. Gives him the dash for St Kilda. Solid year. He is the best, in my opinion, general defender. Moving on now to the midfielders, and this is where things get pretty interesting. A lot of options we can go for here, but yeah, top 3, it's hard to choose. Third place, I got 𝐓𝐶 𝐿𝐴. When you win the Coaches Association Player of the Year award, I feel like you have to be a top 3 player, because I feel like the CA awards are probably the most accurate, I guess you could say. But he was just awesome this year. An extremely hard player to tag, inspirational player to really watch for the Suns, and just goes hard at it all day. Excellent two-way runner. Second best midfielder, I've gone with Lachie Neale. Very unlucky not to take home Charlie. Same with 𝐓𝐶 𝐿𝐴, the player I do have in first place. But yeah, just a stoppage beast. Kicking is probably his downside, but just everywhere else, he's extremely hard play to tag. You have to tag Neale if you want to beat the Brisbane Lions, as I always say. And yeah, I still feel this guy is the best midfielder in the competition. Clayton Oliver, and he really did show up this year, taking home a tied winner with 𝐓𝐶 𝐿𝐴 for the CA Award Player of the Year. But yeah, this guy's the best inside midfielder on the comp. Just so clean in the stoppage, so clean in traffic. best midfielder this year, in my opinion. Now moving on to the rucks, and yeah, there's a lot of options we can go for here. Of course, there is the top two, which we do know, but the third one, it's, you know, you could go for really anyone, because I feel like there's been some really solid underrated ruckmen this year. But I've gone with Tim English from the Western Bulldogs. The first half of the year was sensational. You have to remember that this guy missed out in 5 or 6 weeks. I think he only played like 17 games. He didn't play all season, and every time he's in the side, he's just such a heavy influence. Of course, quite decent on the fantasy too, but yeah, he's just really elevated his game. English, one of the most rapid improvers of this year's competition. He's, you know, become more of a goal-kicking ruckman, which is just, you know, the next generation of ruckmans, which we do want to see, and he's just bossed it this year. Second place, 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐻𝐿, of course, from the Suns. Just an absolute boss in the hit-out. Averages the highest amount of hit-outs in the competition. And yeah, of course, the best ruckman this year has to be Max Gawn. You know, people can say Wits, but I just feel like the ability of Gawn going for kicking goals really adds more value to him. And yeah, Gawn, best ruckman of 2022. Now moving on to the wingman, and this is a really interesting position to go over, because I really did look at champion data for this one, because I actually wanted to select wing players. I didn't want to have, like, you know, like 𝐓𝐿𝐻𝐿 𝐿𝐻𝐿, for example. Yeah, he does play a wing, but he's been on ball this year. I wanted to actually choose wingman. So yeah, top 3, here we go. Third place is still side bottom from Collingwood. Really underrated year this guy had. 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐿, I have to say. Spent a bit of time on the ball, yes, but mainly he was on the wing. I just thought, yeah, he's just criminally underrated this year. I loved, you know, he's still, you know, at his age, he's still a really handy asset for the Pies this year. He did show really good both ways, was just heavily involved in that handball chain that the Pies are so good at this year. Second best wingman, Ed Langdon. He sort of did die a bit in the second half of the year. I do agree with that, but he's just ultra consistent. You know, 100% time on ground, and you know, when you really deeply watch Ed Langdon play, he's a really just gut runner. You know, the running he does, the support he gives his teammates is really special, and it's eye-catching, really. So he's the second best wingman. And first best, lucky not to be an All-Australian this year, Josh Daicos. An elite player. You know, he's a gut runner, but he has the X factor too, so he's a special player, Daicos, the best wingman this year. Now moving on to the midfielder/forward position. As I said earlier, I feel like I wanted to include this position because, yes, it isn't actually like a specific, you know, position on the field, but, you know, midfielder forward is becoming such more and more of an important position over the years in the new generation of AFL football. It's just such a dynamic position, so that's why I wanted to include it. So it's kind of, yeah, players that have the even split of midfielder and forward time. So yeah, third place, I've got Connor Rozee from Port Adelaide. Pretty quiet in the first half of the year, but as soon as he moved into that midfield, Port Adelaide's not only his performance, but the whole side's performance really did change. He's just a special player to watch, really. Just classy, silky smooth, can go for kick goals, really good in the centre bouncer tendencies. Yeah, hard to be in the top 3. Second place, I've gone with Shai Bolton. Now, I actually had a look at the centre bouncer tendencies. According, you know, he's actually the 5th most centre bounce attendance out of the Richmond side, so that's why I don't have him the general forward of having him as a midfielder forward, and you can kind of see that from what we've seen this year. But one of the most exciting players to watch, Shai Bolton. You know, he's energetic. He is seriously, I think, the player with the most X factor out of any player in the competition. I know people don't really rate him, but for me, I personally do. He's just a really exciting player to watch, and just classy as well. Second best for me, and first, I've gone Petrarca. Yeah, you probably could put in midfield, but again, I looked at the centre bounce tendencies. He did spend a lot more time forward than a few other midfielders across the competition, so that's why I've included him in there. Had a bit of a slump mid-season, Petrarca, but yeah, you know, first half of the year, you know, like the first few weeks, it was probably his best footy, and he really got going, you know, around the final third of the season. But yeah, you know, special player, Petrarca. Of course, that is safe to say. Absolutely bossed it this year. Now for the general forwards, and we've got an interesting top 3 here, I have to say. You know, as I do look at these plays, you have to really, you know, position them in the correct position. So here's my top 3. Third place, I got Dylan Moore from Hawthorn. Yeah, really underrated player this year, that's safe to say. You know, if you're playing for a side that's bottom 6, you're not really going to be noticed that much. That's what I feel, Dylan Moore. He moved a lot more into the midfield, I guess you could say, with a few games this year. But just because I feel like, you know, as a whole, he did play mainly for this year. I've included him in the general forward area. But yeah, kicked, I think, 25 goals plus this season. Yeah, just a really classy player. Racks up the football, racks up the goal assists too, and especially score involvements. He's just always involved for the Hawks this year. Yeah, really underrated player. You know, I felt like he was good enough to make the 40-man. Did not, but yeah, for me, top 3. He is in. Second best, I've got Bailey Fritsch from the Melbourne Demons. I think he's the only player this year to kick every goal a game. But yeah, this is a player that personally I really love watching. He's a player that I highly rate, and for me, you know, when he's on, I know he's selfish, yes, but he's just a really diligent player. He's for craft. He's a smart player. He always makes the right leads. You know, he can kick the goals. He does it all really. Second best for me. And for the best general forward this year, he had his slumps, but I still feel like it's 𝐼𝙗𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐸. You know, the score involvements he does contribute to the Swans week in, week out is still very good. He has those performances where he has those slumps, you know, he can't kick straight or he can't get his hands on the footy, but he's still just an X-factor player. You know, heavy involvement, high influence side for the Swans this year. Still kick, I think, over 40 goals, or 50, I think he kicked the most goals of a general forward this year. Maybe just behind Fritsch, but yeah, awesome year, 𝐼𝙗𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐸. Now for the small forwards, and there could be a bit of bias here for my third place small forward. I've gone with Tom Papley from the Sydney Swans. You know, you could go with Jack Ginnivan, you could go with a few other players like that, but I know that Papley only played, I think, 15, 16 games this year. Missed out in the first 7 weeks, but you know, if you remove the emotional attachment from Papley, I know he's the top 3 flog in the competition, safe to say. If you remove the emotional attachment from Papley, he is just one of the most influential players in the competition, without a shadow of a doubt. His ability to go on the centre bounce and tendencies, you know, he can really dig into the opposition. When he gets his hands on the footy, he's a high influence. Top 5 in goal assists this year for only playing 15, 16 games is pretty much absurd. Ranks elite in the score involvements too, and he's just been, you know, it's just whenever he is in the side, he really lifts the Swan side. He's just that point of difference. He's a special player, Papley, and when he has been in the side, he's just been too, you know, he's been just a huge influence, and I had to put him in the top 3 in my personal opinion. Second place, Charlie Cameron from the Brisbane Lions, kicked over 50 goals this year. But yeah, you know, Charlie Cameron, all know Charlie. He has those games where he just turns it up. You know, he wins games off his own boot. Sensational year he did have. For me, I don't feel like he had the year he had last year, but still huge for the Lions this year. And my personal best small forward for 2022 has to be Tyson Sengel from Geelong. What a story it was, getting recruited as a delisted free agent, won a flag, made the All-Australian. But yeah, the best recruit I feel like this year too, alongside small forward. But yeah, just crafty player. I mean, if you're under 80 bets, you're going to be a superstar, and you know, a high chance to be a superstar. And he sure showed that this year. But yeah, crafty player, really just energetic player, and he was a really accurate kick for goal this year, that's safe to say as well. And finally, for the top 3 key forwards, could be a bit of a debate here, because I have left out a player that you probably should have or could have in the top 3. But yeah, third place, I've gone with Tom Lynch from the Richmond Tigers. Yeah, I just feel like Lynch is actually, according to Champion Data, the best key forward out of any player this year, according to them. But feel like, you know, he's just sort of underrated in a way. Like, I know he's a hated player, but when he's injury free, you know, when he's not injured, he is seriously, on the day, he could be, you know, the best key forward out of the competition. I feel like he's shown that through many performances this year. I feel like he's probably one of the best pack marks in the competition, best contested marks. He's really straightened up this year with his goal kicking. He kicked like 21 goals in the last 4 weeks. I feel like, you know, he's a player that wins games off his own boot. He's just a player that produces such a high influence to the side when he's on, and how about it, he actually ended up winning Richmond's Best and Fairest award this year. So that just goes to show how huge Tom Lynch was this year, and he is my third best key forward. Very unlucky too not to make the All-Australian. For my second best key forward, you've got to have the gold medalist in. I've got Charlie Curnow from the Carlton Blues. Yeah, great year he had, Curnow. It's awesome to see. You know, late last year, had his comeback game from the ACL injury. I think he kicked a goal that game too, and this year he's just set it like a house on fire, really. Kicked multiple bags this year, which really did help him to obtain the Coleman medal. And alongside Harry McKay, you know, he was really energetic this year. It was exciting to watch, that's safe to say. His leads were really sharp this year. His goal kicking was awfully quite good too, for the most part. But yeah, second best key forward this year, Charlie Curnow. And for my best key forward of 2022, I've got Jeremy Cameron from the Geelong Cats. So that means I've left out Tom Hawkins, so there's a bit of controversy there. But yeah, for me, Jeremy Cameron, just one of the most valuable players in the competition. Not only is he a key forward, he can play as a small forward in a way. He can play really high up the ground. But yeah, just when he's on, he can just change a game really. Awesome mark, great kick for goal. Very unselfish play too, that's safe to say as well. And yeah, he's just had an absolute superstar year, Jeremy Cameron. So everyone, there is my top 3 AFL players in every single position, as you can see from the graphic on your screens. Have a good look at it, and feel free, fellas. I'd love to hear your fellas' thoughts down below. Feel free to comment down below and let me know what you think of. Would you change a few things? Because of course there is these kind of videos do have a lot of debate in it. So yeah, I'd love to hear your fellas' thoughts. So everyone, thank you very much for watching today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you wanted to enjoy today's video. Of course, we are at the time of recording in the middle of the trade period still, so stay tuned on the channel. We'll be releasing a pretty big trade period video in the next coming days. But yeah, fellas, thank you very much for tuning in, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.